the arena. My name is Jenny Whitener. I'm the CEO of Bridge Innovate. And for over 20 years, Bridge Innovate has partnered with leaders to solve problems and simultaneously build leadership capability. This series is designed to share valuable insights and lessons from our clients and network as inspiration for leaders in the arena. At Bridge Innovate, we work to empower teams to lead, think, and problem solve differently. Our clients engage with us from consulting to leadership and team development to even engaging in future lab sprints. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited to welcome you to Winning Together, Why Investing in Team Development is Key to Success, with our very special guest, Dr. Martha Rader. Martha brings over 30 years of experience in leadership, coaching, and organizational development. She holds a PhD in organizational leadership with a focus on leadership conflict management, something I need. We'll talk about that later, Dr. Rader, and team building. Dr. Rader is certified in John Maxwell's trainer, as she's a DISC consultant and an authorized partner of Denison Culture, Wiley Lencioni, and Everything DISC. Her work spans various industries, including automotive, banking, legal, and the nonprofit sector. In 2010, she was nominated for the Automotive News 100 Leading Women in the Auto Industry, and she continues to be an active board member and the community volunteer. Dr. Rader, welcome to the show. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience today to get to know?
Thank you so much, Jenny. I'm excited to be here. I just want to say that what makes my job meaningful is to help others, to help unleash potential and help teams and companies that improve and grow to succeed. That's what it's all about for me.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And what a meaningful topic. I think team development affects every entity and every organization today. So let's jump in. I know that we have a lot to cover. As we get started today, I want to invite our guests who are joining with us live. If you have comments or questions throughout the day's program, please feel free to post those in the chat. And we do have time at the very end of our session today to take questions and give those to Dr. Rader. So Dr. Rader, talk to us about team development. Why is this important?
So team development is so important. You can see here on the slide, there's some important things: reduce conflict, improve decision-making, innovation, and productivity. And one of the biggest things here is if we don't reduce or have cohesion within teams, then none of these other things happen, okay? So you can see 25% increase, 20%, 87% faster decision-making, and 20% reduction. To kind of hit this home on why team development is so important, how many people here know who LeBron James is? LeBron James is he is the highest paid NBA player. And at one point he went from Cleveland to Miami Heat, and there were 3 powerhouses there, all starting lineup. And they said, okay, we are going to win championships. And guess what? They didn't for 2 years. It took them 2 years to be able to work together because these 3 powerhouses, all star performers, they're looking to establish their own leadership. I'm the greatest. No, I'm the greatest. And there was conflict. There was problems. Do you think that they had innovative plays? Only if it involved me, right? And so team development is so important to get those egos in check, for people to understand how all those things work, that unity that makes things happen. Team development is crucial.
Absolutely. In fact, from this article in Harvard Business Review, it talks about how teams, when we think about people in high trust companies, people that are in a team in which high trust is very prevalent, it's something that leaders invest in, you see 74% less stress, 106 more energy, also something I need, 50% higher productivity, 76% more engagement. I mean, the data is in. It's clear, right, that when we really invest in building high trust with our teams and our organization, there's huge benefit. In fact, I love this quote from Adam Grant, where he says that great teams have trust at the heart of their success. If you don't trust each other, you'll play it safe. Trust makes it possible to aim higher, to leap further, and to know someone has your back. So well said. And in today's environment, we need our teams to aim higher, right?
That's right, Jenny. Thank you for that. Yeah, so this team development foundation was developed by Bruce Tuckman, 1965. And this research with this 5 stages to team development, there's 4 here. The fifth is a journey. It came later. But it's so crucial to building that trust. And so it's kind of quirky, this name. It's forming, storming, norming, performing, and journey. The problem with the model, not with the model, but with teams, is after they form and they're all excited to be together and they've got their goals and their responsibilities, they start to have pressure. Maybe they're not starting to make their goals. Maybe they don't agree on what their responsibilities are. The storming stage becomes the critical part to be able to come out of there, have that trust to go to norming and then performing. The problem is sometimes teams never come out of that storming stage. And so it's up to the leaders to be able to help them through that stage. Now, when I say new team, I'm working with a team now that was well established and they never really got out of the storming stage. So it isn't just new teams, it's both. But that trust is critical, and this is a proven model.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. And in fact, there are many leaders that'll contact us at Bridge and say, we've got a situation with our team. And when they start describing it, you're right, Dr. Rader, they're stuck in storming. And it really takes intentionality to move your team to that high performing stage. And one of the things that we advocate with clients that work with us here at Bridge Innovate is to mobilize what we would call a next generation teaming model. And I know, Dr. Rader, you know this well because it's something you and I do together and teaming up and helping our clients. But we are helping clients to first look at what is going on. What is the self-assessment? How do we build greater levels of knowledge around awareness, self-awareness? What's my role in the team? How do I engage as a team member? And then there's this component around defining team commitments. What would we commit to doing? And then there's a focus around next generation teaming. So what is our vision for this next approach? How would we get to that high performing? What does that model look like? So really helping teams become aware, understand the major components of commitments of what it takes to be a great team, and then the process of forming that vision. And so they have an aspirational approach for that next generation teaming. I know there's a favorite tool that you and I both advocate for, and I'm going to let you take that one away.
Okay. So that's DISC, and I use it with everything that I do. But I want to just hit one point, Jenny, and that is the self-awareness part. So I had a company, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this company as a case study throughout this today. But the original problem that they had was accountability. So they didn't hold each other accountable. They weren't accountable. So their results were lackluster, right? So understanding, and so what we found out after the assessment is it wasn't that accountability was absolutely a problem, but it was because they didn't trust each other. So those assessments are key, Jenny. They're key.
They really are. And it opens up the window for some candid conversations that naturally just will not occur until you have that data in front of you.
Yeah.
Talk about this 5 behaviors model. I know you and I really love this material.
Yeah. So this is Patrick Lenciani's 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And he has a book. If you haven't read it, you probably should. It is fast read and it's outstanding. I never met anyone that didn't completely love it. But in this book, they have the 5 behaviors model or the 5 dysfunctions. They're synonymous. But there's 5 different rungs on this pyramid that enables teams to get to results. The first is trust. The second is conflict. Third is commitment. The fourth is accountability. And the 5th is results. So each of these, so if you take trust, if we don't trust one another, we're not going to engage in that conflict, that productive, healthy conflict to really get through different ideas and innovate, to get to the best decisions. If we don't listen to people and we don't hear their ideas and thoughts, then they're not going to commit to those decisions. And if they don't commit, there's no accountability. There's no accountability. The results are subpar and even worse at times. So let's just dig in and unpack these 5 behaviors a little bit more. What does it look like to have trust on a team? Well, it means being unguarded and genuine, being able to talk through things and trust that whatever you have to say isn't going to be held against you. It's apologizing. It's and truly, genuinely apologizing, understanding and admitting to mistakes and weaknesses. The bottom line here is that we know team members' intentions are good. That's trust. What does it look like to have productive conflict? It's voicing your opinions, even at the risk of disagreement. This is where we get to the best decisions in innovation. We have to have that productive conflict. So seeking out your team members' opinions during meetings, confronting and dealing with the most important, difficult issues. That's the tough one right there. We skirt them, we sweep them under the rug, we do all kinds of things. And when we do that, we are not uncovering the best solutions and even worse than that. So what does it look like to have commitment on a team? Well, it's being clear about the overall direction and priorities. It's when you leave a meeting, people are clear about that. There's a call to action. It's specific. And before we leave the meeting, we know that even if your idea wasn't the one that was decided on, that we all agree to disagree. We commit to that. We support each other even in those times. What does it look for accountability? Well, this is a tough one, right? A lot of teams have problems here, but it's because of the first 3. So it's offering and accepting unsolicited constructive feedback. Ooh, that's a tough one, right? A lot of people fear that. It's feeling pressure from your teammates. We all want to exceed. We all want to have those results. And sometimes we have to apply a little pressure for that to happen. You can see that by questioning one another about current approaches and methods could lead to great innovation, right? Sometimes we can't see it ourselves. That then, all 4 of these means you get better results. Your results should be much higher by enacting all 4 of these.
And you know, Dr. Rader, when we do a 5 behaviors workshop with a team and really focus on these critical behaviors, I think it begins to give them a kind of a baseline, a foundation of how to work with each other. Like if we could just master these 4 areas across these 5 dimensions, like think what that would mean to our team. And so they begin to practice them in the workshop and explore them and see, you know, how they can become just a regular way of how that team's operating. And that's a huge awakening, right?
It is.
When people go through the 5 behaviors.
Right. That is, you're right there. Yeah, the practicing of it is critical. If you don't practice it and try different things together, then it's not going to make a difference. So the workshops and the development is critical. I just want to say one more thing about, unless teams work through these 5 dysfunctions, you may not only suffer from results, but according to Peter Senge, if you know who he is, he wrote the fifth discipline of a learning organization. He says that sometimes our decisions of what we come up with, the cure can be worse than the disease. That means that the cure, whatever you come up with, is worse than your original problem. This happens, right? And so it's really important to have these 5 behaviors with our teams, you know, enacting those every day.
Is it more just that, you know, it's really the power of how all 5 work together. So if you just work on productive conflict, but you don't have trust, or if you just work on accountability, but you don't have commitment, and it's really the power of how those things work together that make it a powerful cure, if you were. And, you know, I know we want to talk a little bit about this instrument, the assessment instrument, because I think when I interview leaders at times and talk to the different team members, they'll articulate kind of what they think they might be doing in these areas, but there's nothing more powerful than an independent well-designed psychometric assessment that gives people insights. Talk a little bit about the assessment instrument that comes with this program.
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. I'd like to first say that in the beginning, I said that I'm working with a team that thought, their problem was accountability. They're right. But until they took the assessment and they saw the data, had no idea that it started right with trust and conflict. So without the data and taking the assessment, they, like you said, they all work together, right? They all have to work together to have that high performing team. And in this case, we would have completely missed that. We would have worked on accountability, but it wouldn't have really worked to the degree it needed to because there was lack of trust. What the assessment does is it shows you, so in this case, you might have had 3 people who believe that there's trust and 4 that says what? No trust. So you look at that and you have those conversations to say, okay, what's going on here and how is it? What shows up in this trust? What shows up in conflict? And so forth. It is powerful to help you work through those things during those workshops and practice and make those commitments, the teaming commitments that you talk about, that you carry forward.
Right.
Powerful.
And using an instrument like this takes sort of the assessment back to the data. It takes some of the emotion out of it, right? So many times teams will come to us in a state of really conflict or chaos, and when emotions are very high. And using a tool like this begins to put the information or sort of their assessment in the form of data, which they can all get their head around. These are areas where we're doing really well as a team. These are areas where all of us are saying we want it to be different. We're not doing so well. We'd like for that to change. So I love this instrument.
And it's an eye opener. It's just truly amazing. It just does wonders for teams.
Yeah.
Jenny, I know this is one of our favorite tools.
I know. Again, we were talking about team development. It's interesting. We're spending a lot of time talking about self-awareness. But it really is true that whether you're doing the 5 behaviors assessment, and I know for the work we do together, we also add in a DISC. So I want to understand from an awareness standpoint, not just how I'm doing across those 5 behavioral team components, but how I naturally work. What's my natural personality style? How do I engage with deadlines? How do I engage with quality data? How do I engage with people? What's my natural orientation? And one of the instruments that we strongly advocate is the DISC. We use a component, an instrument platform called Catalyst in order to administer our Everything DISC assessment with our teams. And it allows an individual to go onto the platform, see their individual results, compare themselves to their teammates and see that entire team profile, and then also just click right over to advice and say, oh, I'm about to go into a meeting with my boss. It's a really high C. I'm in high D. What tips do you have for engaging with that individual? So this awareness, this level of personality awareness, helps individuals be able to shape how they're interacting and how they're communicating to have a best impact and best results. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely, Jenny. And the DISC can be carried through everything that you use in training. It can be applied to everything that you do. It's conflict, it's how you communicate, it's how you collaborate, and how other people do. And when we can understand those differences, we no longer just think, oh, they're really different. No, they're different. And we all have our strengths and our weaknesses, but we can start to appreciate the people because it's how we tick. We all have these things that make us this way. So speaking of collaboration, one of the things that we need to talk about here, because the highly effective teams are high collaborators, right? So what are those strategies? First of all, Everything DISC is going to help you tremendously with collaboration. Hearing each team member, actually listening. There are some of these styles that are more prone to listening than others. So when we uncover blind spots that help people understand that, oh, maybe I'm not the best listener, how do I start to do that? Um, Inviting respectful debate, understanding that it's not a conflict. Problem is that some of these styles feel that even just a strong conversation or a direct conversation is conflict when it really isn't, right? So understanding those things helps us now have that respectful debate. Considering the input, it's how we score ourselves, right? It's how we score our team. It helps us on how we make decisions. How, are we going to agree to disagree? We need to do that. This disc and the team assessment will help us with all those things. And lastly, I just want to say that committing to cascading message to other teams or employees, because here's what happens. We walk out of a meeting. If we don't all agree, even agree to disagree, we go back to our teams and we tell them, oh, this decision was made and I'm not behind it and I can't believe we're going to do this. Guess what? It all stops right there.
Right.
So committing to that cascading message is critical.
And our team here at Bridge, we use a disc as just part of onboarding. We refer to it all the time. It's just part of our culture. And you were talking about when we become more self-aware, it helps us be more respectful and considerate of others and their differences in style and value each other. So, for example, I'm a very high DI, and you were talking about listening. I have a very difficult time listening. I'm very quick to speak. So I've always invite my team members, especially those who are high C or high S, to be able to put the red flag up and say, "Okay, Jenny, it's time for you to stop talking and time for you to start listening." And it gives us that common ground to be able to say that to each other and really empower each other to bring our very best to the table, but in a respectful way, so that we
Yes.
all build on each other's strengths. And I think that's part of the high performing team.
Yeah, excellent. And I just want to add that, so on the team that I'm working with, this little case study, right? We actually developed flags, like flags on the field for
Ah,
football. And so when we were in these meetings, if somebody was running off or you knew someone wasn't contributing, they'd throw that flag in the middle of the room and go, "What's going on?" You know, so
I love
really
it.
good symbol. Yeah. So a case study, I'm not going to talk a lot about that. I've said a few things, but I just want to show you, this is the team development. This is what the result looks like. On the left, the team that I've been working with most recently had reds, which is the lowest, and then a couple of yellows, right? And so they were right about accountability being low because it was the very lowest. And then trust and conflict were very close in scoring. So we did a lot of development work and held people accountable to some things. And we did a benchmarking study a year later, and their numbers came way up. Okay. So you can see, though, even though accountability went up substantially, they're still in the yellow, but way higher than they were before. And so you can imagine if that accountability came up even a little higher, how high those results would be. With 5 being the highest, 3.81 is still pretty high. It's in the green. But these are the kind of things that you can do if you're serious about it and you have the courage.
Absolutely. In fact, when we start thinking about the impact team development can have on performance, we have to say, well, where does it all begin, right? And really begins with leadership. And so I would just challenge team members today who are listening or leaders who are listening, reach out to your leader, or even if you're the leader of the team, take that next step and have a conversation with your team about what's it going to take, how would we begin to explore building greater levels of trust, having sort of norms around productive conflict, commitment, accountability in order to achieve that best performing result. And it's that leader who has to have the determination and the courage many times to open up the discussion and say, let's pursue this ourselves, or let's get some help from Dr. Rader or Bridge or whoever to help us go through that process. And of course, the results are in, we've talked about this before, but organizations with highly engaged teams, 23% more profitable, 18% more productive. Organizations experience 78% less absenteeism. from high-performing teams. So the results are in, and I would just invite leaders to take that step of courage and make a commitment to make the time to really invest in team development.
Yeah. So what strategies do leaders pursue to progress team development? And we've talked a lot about those already, right? But pursue the training and development, truly assessing, diagnosed what the problems are. We think we know what they are. You have a good idea, but there are other issues that might be the symptom, not the root cause. Like the company that I'm working with right now. Where are the strengths? Where are the pain points? We need championed, spirited openness. We need to talk through those points in order to make progress and recognize that silence is the enemy. Sometimes we want people to be silent. Let's get through this meeting. We're not going to get through this meeting if we hear from everybody. It's the enemy. It's just going to cause further problems. Champion those teaming principles and commitment, which is one of the three mainstays that Bridge Innovate implements in everything that they do with their clients. And then hold team members accountable to win. Those are the things that are going to help you progress.
Great. So just invite you that if you're listening today and you want to know more about team development and team programming, just reach out to us at hello@bridgeinnovate.com. We're happy to talk to you about a range of leadership development and team development programming that we have. And in fact, on the next slide, for those of you who are participating live, I've put a little QR code in here to share a team development canvas. It's a free tool that's on the Bridge Innovate website at www.bridgeinnovate.com/tools. So check that out if you'd like to know more about our programming or some of the free tools that we offer at Bridge Innovate. So Dr. Rader, I know we have just a couple more minutes and we've got a few questions that have come in from our live participants today. But first, as we wrap up today's program, what's your best advice for leaders in the arena around this topic?
You know, you've heard this before, but it's lead by example. If we're trying to make change in teams, if you don't walk the talk, then you can't expect others to. They're going to do what you do, not what you say. Your own leadership and personality style matters. So meaning, what is your style? What is your conflict style? If your conflict style is one to avoid, then how are we going to help our team progress to that next level, right? And I see it all the time. So what's your decision-making style? What's your so understand these things yourself. It uncovers your own blind spots. And if you don't know yours, then it's a showstopper, right? Because you're the example. Seek coaching, support, or feedback in order to understand that. And remember, we talked about those cascading messages. Middle managers can make or break change efforts, and it stops right there. It kind of a little out of the place there, but I had to get that in there because people don't realize how our communication to our middle people really matter.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for the amazing advice today and walking us through team development. We do have a couple of questions that have come in from our live participants today. One was around, can you talk about the role that diversity and inclusion has in playing to strengthen a team's development?
Yeah, so diversity, equity, inclusion is it's really important because we need diverse ideas. We need, we have different cultures out there that have different opinions. They've seen different things. They live different things. What are our customers like? Who are they? Are they diverse in nature? All these things matter. And it's really the more diverse your team is, team development is really critical to understand those things.
It really is. And I think that the self-awareness instruments paired with Lencioni's 5 behaviors gives you the platform to explore diversity as a strength, right? And how we connect and build on each other's natural orientation. I know one of the other questions that came in today was around emotional intelligence. Same thing. As we become more self-aware, use instruments to understand those natural styles, then we have a better opportunity to engage with each other more in a more sophisticated, more emotionally intelligent way.
Yeah, and Jenny, let me just say one thing.
Yeah.
So we didn't say emotional intelligence in everything we talked about here today, but it's all about emotional intelligence. It's all
Absolutely.
about it. So the training encompasses it. It just isn't called emotional intelligence.
Very good point, Dr. Rader. Thank you so much. I know that we are at time, so I want to sort of wrap us up on today's program. I know that you can reach Dr. Martha Rader on LinkedIn. If you want to reach out to her professionally, feel free to do that. You can also reach out to us here at Bridge Innovate at hello@bridgeinnovate.com, and we'll be happy to continue the conversation on team development. There are many more podcasts and webinars coming up on our Leaders in the Arena channel. We hope to see you again on another program very soon. Have a great day, everyone. And thank you, Dr. Rader.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Really enjoyed it.
Bye now.